Once upon a time, in a small village in Zimbabwe, a baby girl named Nyasha was born. Nyasha's parents died when she was just a baby, leaving her an orphan. The village elders, kind and wise, took care of her, but life was very hard for Nyasha. She grew up poor and often hungry, relying on the kindness of the villagers. Nyasha worked hard, helping with chores and learning from the elders, but she always dreamed of a better life. Nyasha's days were filled with tasks of fetching water, gathering firewood, and helping in the fields. Despite the hardships, she remained hopeful and kind-hearted. The villagers admired her resilience and spirit, but they knew that her future was uncertain. As Nyasha grew older, she became more beautiful and graceful, catching the eye of many young men in the village. However, none of them seemed to offer the escape from poverty that Nyasha longed for. One day, a stranger arrived in the village, changing Nyasha's life forever. His name was Tafadzwa. He was a handsome young man with kind eyes and a warm smile. He spoke to the elders and expressed his desire to marry Nyasha. The elders, hoping for a better future for her, agreed. Nyasha saw this as her chance to escape poverty and accepted Tafadzwa's proposal. Nyasha married Tafadzwa in a simple but joyful ceremony, filled with music, dancing, and laughter. The village celebrated, hoping that this marriage would bring Nyasha the happiness and stability she deserved. Nyasha moved into Tafadzwa's hut, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness about her new life. Tafadzwa was kind and attentive, treating Nyasha with care and respect. At first, everything seemed perfect. Nyasha enjoyed her new home and the sense of security it brought. She spent her days tending to the household and getting to know Tafadzwa better. However, she couldn't shake off a feeling of unease that lingered in the back of her mind. Despite Tafadzwa's kindness, there was something mysterious about him that Nyasha couldn't quite understand. As days turned into weeks, Nyasha started having strange dreams. Every night, she dreamed of a world full of goblins. The goblins danced and sang, creating an eerie but mesmerizing scene. Nyasha was both fascinated and frightened by these dreams. She didn't understand why she was having them and began to worry about their meaning. One evening, Nyasha decided to share her dreams with Tafadzwa. She hoped that he might help her understand them. However, when she told him, Tafadzwa laughed and dismissed her concerns. He called her childish and told her not to worry about silly dreams. Nyasha felt hurt and confused, but she tried to put the dreams out of her mind. She continued to have the strange dreams, each more vivid and unsettling than the last. In her dreams, the goblins were always dancing and singing, their faces twisted into grotesque smiles. Nyasha felt as if the dreams were trying to tell her something important, but she couldn't decipher their meaning. She grew more anxious and distracted during the day, unable to shake off the images from her dreams. One night, the dreams took a darker turn. Nyasha dreamt that she was trapped in the goblin world, unable to escape. The goblins surrounded her, chanting and dancing in a circle. She felt a sense of impending doom, as if something terrible was about to happen. Nyasha woke up in a cold sweat, her heart pounding with fear. Desperate for answers, Nyasha decided to speak to an old woman in the village who was known for her wisdom and knowledge of the supernatural. The old woman listened carefully as Nyasha described her dreams. She nodded slowly and warned Nyasha to be cautious. She told her that dreams could sometimes reveal hidden truths and that she should be vigilant. Nyasha returned home, her mind racing with the woman's words. She couldn't shake off the feeling that her dreams were connected to Tafadzwa in some way. She began to watch him more closely, hoping to find clues that might explain the strange occurrences. One night, Nyasha was woken up by strange noises outside her hut. She quietly got up and peeked through a small crack in the wall. To her horror, she saw Tafadzwa surrounded by goblins. As she watched, Tafadzwa began to transform into a goblin himself. His body twisted and changed, taking on the grotesque features she had seen in her dreams. The goblins cheered and encouraged him, their voices filled with eerie delight. Nyasha's heart raced with fear and disbelief. She couldn't understand what she was seeing. How could her kind and loving husband be a goblin? She wanted to scream, but her voice was caught in her throat. As she stood frozen in place, Tafadzwa suddenly turned and looked in her direction. His eyes, now glowing with an unnatural light, locked onto hers. Before Nyasha could react, Tafadzwa was by her side. He grabbed her arm with a grip like iron and dragged her outside. The goblins surrounded them, their eyes gleaming with malice. Tafadzwa told her that she had to join their rituals, that it was her destiny to do so. Nyasha tried to resist, but Tafadzwa cast a spell on her, making her unable to disobey his commands. Nyasha felt a wave of helplessness wash over her as she realized that she was trapped. She had no choice but to follow Tafadzwa and the goblins into the night. Her mind was filled with confusion and fear, but she knew she had to find a way to escape. Under the spell, Nyasha was forced to take part in the goblin rituals every night. The goblins danced and sang strange songs, their voices echoing through the darkness. Nyasha felt a deep sense of dread and sorrow as she participated in the rituals against her will. She longed to break free from the spell and escape from the nightmare that her life had become. By day, Tafadzwa acted as if nothing was wrong. He was the same kind and attentive husband that Nyasha had married. But by night, he transformed into a terrifying goblin, and Nyasha was forced to join him in the rituals. She felt like she was living two separate lives, each one more unbearable than the other. Nyasha's only solace was the hope that she could find a way to break the spell. She remembered the old woman's warning and decided to seek her help again. Nyasha waited for an opportunity to slip away during the day when Tafadzwa was distracted. She made her way to the old woman's hut, her heart pounding with desperation. The old woman listened to Nyasha's story and nodded gravely. She told Nyasha that the spell could be broken, but it would require great courage and determination. The old woman gave Nyasha a pouch of special herbs and instructed her to use them when the time was right. She warned Nyasha that the path ahead would be dangerous, but it was the only way to break free. Nyasha returned home with the herbs, determined to use them to break the spell. She kept the pouch hidden and waited for the right moment. Each night, she endured the goblin rituals, her heart filled with fear and desperation. The goblins danced and sang, their voices echoing in the darkness. Nyasha felt that she was losing herself, trapped in a nightmare from which there was no escape. Despite the darkness surrounding her, Nyasha held on to hope. She remembered the old woman's words and believed that she could break the spell. She watched Tafadzwa closely, looking for any signs of weakness. Nyasha knew that she had to be careful and patient and wait for the right moment to act. One night, Nyasha noticed that Tafadzwa seemed distracted. The goblins were more boisterous than usual, and Tafadzwa's attention was divided. Nyasha saw her chance. She quietly took the pouch of herbs and sprinkled them around the area where the rituals were being performed. She whispered a prayer, hoping that the old woman's magic would work. As the goblins began their dance, Nyasha felt a strange change in the air. The herbs started to take effect, weakening the spell that bound her. Nyasha felt a surge of hope and strength. She knew that she had to act quickly before Tafadzwa or the goblins noticed what she had done. Nyasha waited for the right moment, her heart pounding with anticipation. When the goblins were fully engrossed in their dance, she made her move. She broke away from the circle and ran towards the village. her feet barely touching the ground. Nyasha knew that her only chance of breaking the spell completely was to reach the elders and perform the ritual they had given her. Her escape was not complete. Though she managed to reach the village and the elders, the spell was only partially broken. Nyasha's life remained intertwined with the goblins, and she found herself pregnant soon after. Nyasha gave birth to 10 children, one after another. Each child was beautiful and normal by day, but at night they transformed into goblins like their father. Nyasha loved her children dearly, but she was heartbroken by their fate. She spent her days caring for them, teaching them, and trying to give them a sense of normalcy. But at night, the transformation would occur, and Nyasha felt a deep sense of sorrow and hopelessness. She couldn't bear to see her children suffer the same fate as Tafadzwa. Despite the pain, Nyasha never gave up hope. She believed that there had to be a way to free her children from the curse. She continued to seek the wisdom of the village elders, hoping that they could help her find a solution. The elders were kind and understanding, but the curse was powerful, and their efforts seemed to yield little result. Nyasha's children grew quickly, their transformations becoming more pronounced with each passing night. She taught them to embrace their human side, hoping to instill in them a sense of compassion and kindness. She knew that they were different, but she wanted them to know that they were loved and valued. The villagers were supportive but wary. They respected Nyasha's strength and determination, but they were also afraid of the goblin curse. Nyasha felt the weight of their fear and judgment, but she remained resolute in her quest to break the spell and give her children a chance at a normal life. She decided to seek help from the village elders once more. She knew that she couldn't do it alone. She needed their wisdom and support to break the curse that had plagued her family. Nyasha gathered her courage and went to the elders, telling them everything about Tafadzwa, the goblins, and her children's plight. The elders listened carefully and were deeply moved by Nyasha's story. They understood the gravity of the situation and promised to help her find a way to break the curse. The elders performed a series of rituals and gave Nyasha special herbs to weaken the spell. They also provided her with protective charms to keep the goblins at bay. Nyasha felt a glimmer of hope. She returned home with the herbs and charms, determined to use them to protect her children and herself. She carefully followed the elders' instructions, placing the charms around her home and using the herbs in her nightly rituals. Nyasha felt a sense of empowerment, knowing that she was taking steps to fight back against the curse. However, the goblins were not easily deterred. They sensed Nyasha's resistance and grew more aggressive in their attempts to reclaim her and her children. Nyasha stood her ground, using the charms and herbs to keep the goblins at bay. She knew that her battle was far from over, but she was determined to protect her family. Nyasha's children, too, began to show signs of resistance. They started to embrace their human side more, rejecting the goblin part of themselves. Nyasha felt a surge of pride and hope as she saw her children fighting against the curse. She knew that with the help of the elders and her own determination, they could break free from the goblin's grasp. One night, Nyasha decided it was time to use the herbs to break Nyasha's spell. She waited until the goblins were gathered and Tafadzwa began his transformation. As the goblins danced and sang, Nyasha quietly sprinkled the herbs around the circle. She felt a change in the air as the magic of the herbs took effect. Tafadzwa noticed something was wrong. He tried to cast his spell on Nyasha, but it didn't work. The goblins became agitated, sensing that their power was waning. Nyasha saw her chance and took the children and started running towards the village. Tafadzwa and the goblins chased after them, but the protective charms and the herbs slowed them down. Nyasha and her children reached the elder's hut, where the villagers were waiting. they performed a powerful ritual to break the spell on Nyasha and her children. The ritual was intense and exhausting, but Nyasha felt the weight of the curse lifting from her shoulders. She knew then that they were finally free. The elders banished Tafadzwa and the goblins from the village, ensuring that they would never return. Nyasha and her children were safe. The villagers celebrated their freedom, grateful for Nyasha's courage and determination. Nyasha felt a sense of peace and relief, knowing that her family was no longer under the goblin's curse. Nyasha and her family began a new chapter in their lives. They were free to live without fear, and Nyasha was determined to give her children the best life possible. She taught them to be strong, kind, and brave, knowing that they had the power to overcome any challenge that came their way. With the curse broken, Nyasha and her children started a new life. They lived with the elders, who helped them to learn and grow. Nyasha was no longer afraid, and she taught her children to embrace their humanity and reject the darkness of the goblin past. Together, they built a new life, full of hope and happiness. Nyasha's children thrived, free from the nightly transformation that had once plagued them. They grew up strong and kind, embracing the values that Nyasha had instilled in them. The villagers welcomed them with open arms, no longer fearful of their goblin curse. Nyasha felt a deep sense of gratitude and pride as she watched her children flourish. Nyasha herself found peace and fulfillment in her new life. She continued to seek the wisdom of the elders and became a respected member of the community. She shared her story with others, teaching them about resilience, courage, and the power of love. Her journey had been filled with challenges, but she had emerged stronger and more determined than ever. As time passed, Nyasha's story became a legend in the village. People spoke of her bravery and the way she had fought against the goblin curse. Nyasha's children carried on her legacy, teaching their own children the values of kindness, strength, and hope. The village prospered, united by the shared story of Nyasha's triumph. In the end, Nyasha found the happiness and stability she had always dreamt of. She knew that her journey had been difficult, but it had shaped her into the strong and compassionate woman she had become. Nyasha's story was a testament to the power of perseverance and the belief that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope for a new beginning.